Welcome Mount Greylock Regional School District families. I'm Christina Connery, the chair of the Mount Greylock Regional School District School Committee. This evening, our interim superintendent, Dr. Putnam, and the Mount Greylock administrative team will describe what's happening inside and outside our buildings and what school will look like starting October 5th. We have a lot of new faces on our administrative team and some familiar faces in different roles. In our district office, Jason McCandless will join us in early November as our superintendent. Joe Bergeron is our new business administrator. You may remember him as a former chair of the school committee. Joelle Bruckner, the former principal of Williamstown Elementary, is our new director of curriculum and instruction. Ellie Kotz, the former assistant principal of Williamstown Elementary, is our new director of academic technology. Kristen Thompson, coming all the way from New Mexico, is our new principal at Williamstown Elementary. Jacob Schutz, the former assistant principal of Mount Greylock Regional School, is now the principal. Colin Sheepar from Southeastern Mass is the new Mount Greylock Regional School assistant principal. And last but not least, Nolan Pratt, the principal of Lanesboro Elementary, is starting his second year, also joining us tonight. I'd like to say thank you. Thank you to our hardworking teachers, paraprofessionals, custodians, cafeteria staff, administrators, and to the families and students of our district. This has not been an easy time, but your strength and commitment to our students is impressive and inspirational. Thank you. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Putnam, our tireless interim superintendent.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Madam Chairwoman. A metaphor that has often been used to describe public education is that of the three-legged stool. In this metaphor, the families, students, and teachers each play an important role in contributing to the stability of the system. A stool with anything less than 3 legs is going to fall. Now more than ever, we need to understand how to work together, not only to ensure stability and a good education for the children of our community, but to protect the safety of every member of our community. The remote model and the hybrid model of education impose far more challenges for families, students, and teachers than anyone has previously experienced. We have spent the last 10 days in a remote setting, which I am sure has been a challenge for all of us. Remote learning is difficult under the best of circumstances, although I really believe that we're improving with every day that we're doing it. On Monday, October 5th, we're going to add another degree of challenge as we bring large numbers of students and teachers into school buildings for the first time since March 13th, 2020. Now our challenge is not just reading, writing, and arithmetic, but it's also keeping each other safe by following the safety protocols. We depend on each other more than we ever have before. Tonight, the Mount Greylock administrators will provide a hybrid overview. They'll give elementary specifics, Mount Greylock specifics, information on the remote academy, and a remote learning update. The administrators have been working tirelessly to develop plans they'll share tonight. We have been joined by teachers and the Mount Greylock Educators Association to problem solve over the many things that come up during the course of the day of trying to teach remotely and when you come into hybrid in person as well. I know that this problem solving is going to continue through the year while we work with you to provide the best education we can, given the limitations imposed by the pandemic. Well, now I'd like to turn it over to the people with whom you're going to be working for the rest of the year. I'm going to introduce Ellie Kotz and Joelle Bruckner to present an overview of the hybrid model. And thank you for paying attention and being a part of this evening. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Joelle Bruckner. I am the Director of Curriculum Instruction.
And I am Ellie Kotz. I am currently the Assistant Principal at Williamstown Elementary, and I'm transitioning to become the Director of Academic Technology for the district.
We're going to begin by talking to you a little bit about arrival and departure from the schools, all three schools. Everything we'll be talking about in the beginning of this presentation is the same at all three of our schools. The cornerstone to having a safe return for students is our daily health and symptom screener. We're requiring that all staff and all families on behalf of their students complete the daily health screener before leaving your house. If you have symptoms, which will be elaborated on in a moment by Ellie, we are requiring that you stay home until you're evaluated by a medical professional. Our nurses are evaluating the symptoms on the screeners daily, and we will be in touch if you have not completed it. We would like to be clear that students and staff, for the safety of all, will not be admitted to the buildings without the completion of the screener. You'll also notice when you have access to the screener that you are able to order your lunches, your students' lunches, for the following week. We're asking that our lunch count will be done on Friday of each week. All of these requirements that I've just spoken of are per the CDC and Department of Ed guidance for schools.
When parents complete the symptom screener, the presence of one symptom does not necessarily indicate that an individual has COVID-19. We will be using a PowerSchool plugin to perform the screening. Students who ride the bus are required to complete their health screener before going to the bus stop. Any student or staff member will not be admitted to school, like we said before, until a screener is completed. If a student or staff member has COVID-19-like symptoms and chooses to be tested or results in an alternate diagnosis, they can return to school after they have tested negative for COVID-19, have had an improvement in symptoms, and have been without a fever for at least 24 hours without the use of fever-reducing medication. If a provider makes an alternative diagnosis for those symptoms, the individual can return to school based on the recommendations for that alternative diagnosis. For example, flu or strep. If a student or staff member presents COVID-like symptoms and chooses not to be tested, they can return to school 10 days from the start of symptoms, as long as their symptoms have improved and they have been without fever for at least 24 hours prior to their return to school without the use of fever-reducing medication. The single most important thing to do if any of the symptoms are present is to stay home. Our collective health relies in part on individual attention and responsibility. Please note that some symptoms of COVID-19 are the same as the flu or a bad cold. Please do not assume it is another condition. When in doubt, stay home. The symptoms we'll be screening for are as follows: a fever, 100 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, chills or shaking chills, cough not due to other known causes, such as a chronic cough, difficulty breathing or shortness of breath, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, headache when in combination with other symptoms, muscle aches or body aches, nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea, fatigue when in combination with other symptoms, nasal congestion or a running nose, not due to other known causes, such as allergies, and when in combination with other symptoms.
Masks, very important. Masks are required for all students and staff and any visitors who come to the building. We are asking for multiple layer fabric face masks as recommended with a tight weave or paper surgical masks. All masks have to be worn, such as mine, covering both your nose and mouth fully. And I'd like to report that after the first days of school, with some of the students that we have in the buildings, even our very youngest pre-K students are doing a marvelous job with this. So we don't anticipate a problem with mask wearing. We'd like to note that studies indicate that bandanas and neck gaiters and such are less effective at preventing droplet spread, so we are requiring regular masks for all ages. Physical distancing, you want to talk about that? Sure.
6 feet of physical distancing is required at all times. Staff will do their very best at arrival to allow students to come in the building So we expect that our lines are going to be a little bit long with 6 feet of distancing before you come into the building. So please anticipate the weather and dress for that. Students are expected to follow all of our health and safety guidelines beginning the moment they arrive at the bus stop or arrive at school. This includes wearing a mask, maintaining 6-foot distancing. When students are getting on the bus, they will be allowed to load the bus one at a time. Students will be seated no more than one to a bench unless they're from the same household, at which students can sit together. As students board the bus, they will occupy the seats starting from the rear of the bus and then filling into the front of the bus. Students must disinfect their hands upon entrance to the bus, and seats will be assigned. Students are expected to go to their assigned seat and remain there until they're given permission to exit the bus. Upon arrival, the bus will be unloaded in a controlled manner, starting from the front and emptying to the back. At that time, students will join the line to be admitted to the school building.
A little bit more about arrival and departure. We regret to inform everyone, although you may have expected this, that we are not allowing parents or visitors inside the buildings. It's for us to maintain safety for our students and staff. Again, the symptom screening is required before a student is allowed in. There are designated entry doors for each class or grade, and when the principals come to speak to you in a moment, they'll talk about that more in detail. We're also asking that parents do your absolute best, unless there's an emergency, to communicate any end of day plans before the start of school. It will be even more difficult than usual for the office staff, which is limited, to be answering calls and getting messages to classrooms. Again, we are following CDC and DESE guidance here.
Okay, we're going to talk about some procedures that will happen during the school day. Regarding mask wearing and physical distancing, masks will be worn at all times except in the middle and high school. Students are having lunch. Physical distancing, all of our rooms and desks have been redesigned to allow for 6 feet of distancing between students. We have modified designs for recess and outside of class times. We will also get to that in more detail in a moment. We're encouraging our staff to utilize outdoor spaces as much as possible. We are so fortunate that we have beautiful campuses that we can utilize. We will focus on hand washing and hand hygiene. The following times are times that students will be required to wash or disinfect their hands: upon arrival at school at sanitization stations, before eating, before putting on and after taking off masks, after using the bathroom, and before dismissal at sanitization stations. And we want to note that it's really important. We're going to do our very best to consistently spend 6 feet apart. But there are times when staff might need to help a child. So we are actively listening and engaging to help mitigate risks, but we're going to be helping our students if they need help for short periods of time. I will continue to talk about recess. Students will be able to go outside and expel their energy during recess. Of course, we know that that's so important for their development. When they're outside at recess, they'll remain with their cohort or grade level. If the students are playing on the equipment, they may do so with their masks. If they're out in the field or an open space observing social distancing, they can remove their masks. When students exit the building to go out to recess, they will sanitize or wash their hands. And when they come back into the building, they will also sanitize and wash their hands.
Water bottles. Students are highly encouraged to bring reusable water bottles with them to school. Our water bottle filling stations, which we have in all 3 buildings, will be operational. I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens if somebody's at school and starts to exhibit some symptoms. We have dedicated medical waiting rooms in all 3 buildings. We have protocols for sending students home for families to address symptoms that are of concern. And as Ellie mentioned a little while ago, some protocols for how students may return with medical advice. All of this needs to be carried by the school and community as when symptoms of COVID-19 diagnoses arrive. We're not saying if, we expect that it will happen at some point. So we want to be as prepared as we possibly can, and we feel very confident about that.
And we will be transitioning to speaking about the elementary school procedure specifically. And next up is Nolan Pratt, the principal of Lanesboro Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. So if you are a Lanesboro parent, you did receive an email today with very specific instructions. However, I will review them again right now. So when you arrive at Lanesboro, this is for buses and cars. Buses go in the bus loop. Cars go in the same drop-off spot that they have been for the past year. When you are dropping a student off, please stay in your car unless you absolutely have to get out to get the student out of the car seat or for some other reason. We're trying to make this as quick as possible. Now, instead of going into 2 entrances as we used to, each grade level will have their own entrance. Grade 3 goes in the main entrance. Grade 1 will go in their own exterior door. Grade 2 goes in the old pickup entrance. Pre-K, K, and K all have their own doors. Grades 4, 5, and 6 are on the back side of the building, so they walk all the way around to go into their own special door. Now, this is why the screener is so important. If you forget to fill out that screener and a student in 6th grade gets here and they walk all the way around the building and they don't have it filled out, they have to walk all the way back to the front of the building to see Nurse Kathy, to call you up to make sure that they are okay to be in school that day and that they have no symptoms. Dismissal is the same way. They will walk out of the school, out of their exit, around, get on a bus or a car, and move on their merry way. So there might be students within 3 to 6 feet of each other, just like you are at the grocery store. It's outside. It's a very safe way to do this. So the hybrid schedule. So if this is a schedule for a student that comes to school in the PM. So at 8:35, they will arrive to school via Chromebook and have their attendance taken, etc. Then they will move into their first asynchronous activity. Then they might have a break, a second asynchronous activity. They'll have their special in the morning, art, PE, music, media tech. And then at 11:10, that first morning session's over. So asynchronous could be anything from IXL to work assigned to the student the day before, Lexia. It could also be a project the student works on their own and then eventually brings back to school. It is student-led content with para support. Then they have lunch and recess and a little break. And then they hop on the bus or get in the car and they arrive at school for 12:20. At 12:20, the school takes attendance again and they have their core content classes. They'll have math, ELA, and social studies. And that's the same schedule for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday is a fun, I call it a fun day. I mean, all school days are fun days, but Wednesday is a fast, fun day. They start with homeroom and ELA and math in the morning. And they'll have all their specialists that day, as well as something that I'm very excited about, social emotional learning with our school psychologist, Mrs. Vile. And then they'll have some asynchronous time in there as well. Some teachers might assign a project for the entire day of Wednesday. It could be IXL, Lexia. It's all student-led with para support. Now, one thing that you might not notice in this afternoon schedule is that there is no time for snack built in. And that is to really maximize when the students are in the building, their time with the teachers. So I'm going to pass it off now to one of the favorite people I know. She was a champion napper back in her day. She was born in Guam, and she is my 3rd favorite Disney fan, Kristen Thompson of Williamstown Elementary.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Pratt. So arriving at West is going to look a lot like what it looks like at Lanesboro. We are asking that you have your screener completed by 8 a.m. This is going to help streamline our process to get students into the building. Both students will have to have their screener before boarding. If you're looking at the map, you will see that there are typical drop-off locations, but students have entrances all around the building, and each grade level is assigned basically a set of doors. When we go to the drop-off area, students who are requiring assistance, such as car seats or child locks, to get out of your vehicle will continue to go to that lane that's right there next to the Williamstown Youth Center. Students who can drop off and they can hop out and go, they'll be at the drop-off lane. And we will make sure that our doors are labeled with the entrances and exits for each grade level so that you're not confused. But the map shows you exactly where you will be. If you look at first grade, that's right along Church Street. So that can give you sort of an idea of where your students will be going. Here is the Williamstown schedule. Students are going to arrive at classroom doors as communicated via email. This email is coming out to you tonight. I just have to fix a link for you guys and make sure that this link works before I send anything out. AM arrival is 8:25, and then we'll depart at 11:10. PM arrival is 12:20 and departs at 3:05. If you take a look at the bottom of your screen, we have a sample AM cohort showing arrival and arrival, dismissal, and what they will be doing during the remote time. So starting at 8:25, we'll get the kiddos in. At 8:30, we'll start some core content. Again, this is sample. It'll be very specific to your child's teacher assignment and what their class will look like. We'll have core content going on, some social emotional learning, and then we'll go to dismissal at 11:10. We'll transition between models from 11:10 to 12:25, and then there will be some synchronous academic support for ELA and math. And if your student is not in that academic support and math, the student will be providing, or sorry, the teacher will be providing content for your student via asynchronous learning. We'll also have a special at 1:45 and some asynchronous PE. If you look at the PM cohort schedule, that's just flipped, and we will start out with synchronous academic support in the core content areas, some more asynchronous learning, a special, asynchronous PE, a transition, and then when they arrive at 12:25, we'll get them in, and we'll start the core content in person. The next presenter is Mr. Jacob Schutz.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Here we have our schedule. This is a combined synchronous and asynchronous learning schedule that works best for students in both remote and hybrid learning scenarios. Given the reality that we may need to pivot back and forth, we need structure that works well in both environments. This is that structure. This model is designed to consider students' work habits and recognize some of the students' best work is done in late afternoons and evening hours. You'll notice that the periods and blocks stay the same each day. This is the schedule which we are following right now. It is the schedule that is in PowerSchool, and it is the schedule that we will continue to follow in remote learning. You'll notice that the periods do not rotate. Attendance will be taken for students in the classroom, physically present in the classroom, and for students learning remotely. Cohorts have been determined and have been emailed to families. They're also listed in PowerSchool after the student's name, grade, and student ID number. I just want to hit upon a couple arrival and dismissal procedures. So the way that a student arrives in the building will determine the way they enter the building. For example, drivers and people in carpools will enter through the cafeteria doors. Students who are dropped off will enter through the main entrance, and bus riders will enter in one of the two academic doors. Students will go directly to the doors based on where they or how they arrive, and they will join the line. They will be screened by a staff member at the door to make sure they have filled out their health screener. They'll sanitize their hands upon their entry and then head right to their first period of class. We're going to be using a staggered dismissal process, floor by floor. All students will disinfect their hands and then leave their classrooms. Generally, students will exit the same door which they enter. Students who remain at school for athletic activities or clubs will report directly to the field or location where their sport or activity is meeting. Students must bring all their material with them from the school building to these after-school activities they will not be allowed to re-enter the building. There will be restrooms available outside, and lockers will be available for students as they exit the building. Also to note that bus routes are going to be published to the website and emailed to families by the end of the week, possibly tomorrow, for Mount Greylock Regional School. When students load the buses, they will load from the rear of the bus, and one student per seat, and then fill going towards the front. Some miscellaneous items to mention. Our academic quarters are noted here. The first quarter is 10 days shorter, so that'll be ending on the 30th. That's based on our the extra PD days, the beginning of the year. There's a fall packet from guidance going out that will contain all college application information, financial aid information, dates, and timelines. Following that, guidance counselors will meet individually with seniors to go over all this information. Lunch, grades 11 and 12 will eat in the cafeteria, and there'll be extra spaces in the auditorium. There'll be the patio outside, and the front will be available, and tent will be available out back behind the auditorium. Grades 7 through 10 will eat in the gymnasium, on the bleachers, and on the gym floor, with lunch tables being replaced with individual trays and folding tables. We're going to have a rolling release from lunch to facilitate room in the hallways. And directed study this year is going to be an office hour concept, which is going to totally be virtual. There won't be any attendance taken during directed study. It'll be a chance for students to reach out directly to teachers for extra support and assistance. Students will physically report to their block 9 and 10 classes after lunch in order to then virtually access their directed study. I will be followed by Joelle Bruckner, Director of Curriculum and Planning.
Hello again. I just wanted to speak with you for one moment about the Elementary Remote Academy, which will also begin on October 5th. Just a few bits of information. We sent extensive information and an FAQ to families who've chosen to participate in the Remote Academy earlier this week. But for the general audience this evening, I'd like to say that we are taking great pride in creating a unique program for our district. Many districts are outsourcing the education for children who choose to do remote education, and we've created a program that uses our own curriculum, district vetted curricula. It is created by our staff, it is staffed by our own faculty, and it also allows students to intermingle remotely with their hybrid peers through specialists, which was, we were able to redesign the program based on feedback from parents about that. So we appreciate that feedback. We are fully staffed. We are, just very quickly, our kindergarten remote academy teacher will be Erin Jennings from Lanesboro Elementary. Teaching first and second grades will be Abby Lazinski from Williamstown Elementary. Teaching third and fourth grades will be Jen Samansky from Lanesboro Elementary. And fifth and sixth grade will be taught by Alexandra Scott from Williamstown Elementary. Our special education teacher will be Kayla Targic. And we have instructional support paraprofessionals Cassie Beverly and Alicia Woodbury. And I should note, you might just be saying, their teachers are teaching 2 grades. Yes, indeed they are. But the schedule will be mirroring our AM/PM cohort schedule. So teachers will be teaching 1 grade at a time. This is not multi-age grouping. For instance, 3rd grade would receive core instruction from their teacher in the morning, and 4th grade in the afternoon, etc. During the core instruction, children will be receiving primarily synchronous instruction with their grade level peers in the remote academy. And on the flip side of their day, they will be doing the same kinds of activities that their hybrid peers will be doing. They will be attending specialists with their hybrid peers. They will be receiving support from in office hour kind of format and also in small groups with paraprofessionals. And there will be asynchronous activities that build on and elaborate and reinforce the learning that they've done the rest of the day. And I just do want to note that schedules will be coming out later this week, and you will see, for parents' sake, we're putting blocks of asynchronous learning in the schedule, but we're encouraging families to really utilize the flexibility of an asynchronous kind of assignment and do that when it works best for your family. So just because the schedule says that at 1:30 to 2:15, there's an asynchronous assignment that's supposed to be happening, if that's not the time that works best for your family for that assignment, which is asynchronous without a teacher from the school, then that's okay to do that when it works for you. We have a little bit of an update on technology, and I am reintroducing my friend and colleague, Ellie Kotz, our assistant principal at Wes and director of academic technology.
Okay, I'd like to provide a quick learning update. Everything feels really urgent right now as we're tackling a different school year that is so heavily reliant on technology. I realize everyone relies on a certain hardware, software, platform, or system that's essential to their specific role. Synchronous learning has had some amazing successes and a few speed bumps along the way. Viewing lessons and hearing feedback from teachers has everybody so excited to re-engage with students. The biggest bump right now is using Zoom for education. Google and Zoom are working collaboratively to get an update pushed out for Chromebooks as fast as possible. The problems we're experiencing are not unique to us, but are happening all over the country and the world with the Zoom application working effectively on Chromebooks. A better solution right now that I pushed out earlier a couple days ago is to run Zoom through the Chrome browser rather than the application. In addition, updates are pushed out to student Chromebooks when the Chromebook restarts. So it would be ideal if students could shut down their Chromebooks each night so they can receive the updates that we push out. With regard to our online symptom screener, we have accomplished a soft rollout with our staff. Prior to that, we were using a paper-based screener. And last I checked, we are at 95% compliance completing the screener online and 5% paper-based. So that's 100% compliance with completing the screener. And we're looking forward to working out everybody getting online. Next, our teachers now have a Zoom licensed account so they can poll, track attendance, and host larger meetings without a time limit. It gives them a little more flexibility, and hopefully you all on the receiving end. They now have access to Screencastify, which is an extension that allows teachers to record themselves. When teachers logged in, they're automatically hooked up to their accounts. Coming soon is a help desk through Freshdesk. This creates tickets, assigns troubleshooting to staff who can problem solve. It will be rolled out for parents and staff. What I love about this is it collects data on frequently asked questions and will allow us to track trends to tighten our techniques. The elementary schools will be rolling over to a single sign-on launchpad. So in the future, not quite yet, we're finishing it up. When the Chromebooks open, students will have a launchpad where they click on the application and they'll bypass all the login pages. And finally, I will be taking over as the Canvas administrator come later October, beginning of November, once I fully transition into my new role. I am going to hand this over to Dr. Putnam, who I believe will wrap this up.
I think Ellie and I will wrap this up, actually. We would just like to primarily say thank you for your patience and your continued patience. We have all been, it's not cliche, we've all been learning a lot daily. And we are so excited for both the launch of the Remote Academy and to have more students back in the building with our hybrid model. There will be glitches. We have the best laid plans, but we're ready to make revisions in our plans as needed, all in the best interest of safety and health of our students and staff. Some of the internet issues have been frustrating, but as Ellie mentioned, those are not problems unique to us. We are working on those. This has been a really unique time. And again, we thank you very much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question at this time, please type it into the question section so that our team of administrators who are sitting in the cafeteria right now can answer your questions. We're going to keep this over for a little while. So just start typing and we'll get back to you. And again, thank you so much for participating this evening, and we look forward to working with you through the whole process.